stream.
If you haven't started the stream, then
look, I'm so small. Well, the stream has started. I'm just a small person. Boom. 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 I need to make my let me see if this is gonna this is going so well right now. That's all right, let's start local recordings. Local recording in Audacity. Audio hijack. Where's my audio hijack? There. All right. Okay, start local recording in 3, 2, 1. Clap check in 3, 2, 1. Hi, Discord. I assume you are not getting an echo, Ted. If you are, can you let me know?
Decades.
Perfect. I can hear it on Thomas's.
That's me, yeah.
Sweet. All right. I have nothing to say to you guys except to let's start the goddamn show. Do you guys want to talk about anything before we kick this off?
Ready to go.
You are listening to episode 139 of PHP Ugly, the premier #1 podcast for PHP developers and PHP developer like-minded people. I am one of your hosts, probably the most enthusiastic host you have, and I go by the name of Eric Van Johnson. I am here with a couple of my friends, a couple of fellow developers, people I would have over for dinner every now and then, but you know,
they would refuse.
For starters, my childhood friend John Congdon.
I'm confused. You said episode 139. What happened to 137?
Title is wrong in YouTube.
I wasn't even going there.
Fix it in post.
I wasn't even going there. This was a joke about me not being here for 2 weeks, and you completely butchered that.
That is not a joke to us. That is not a joke.
We need to get Eric some improv classes.
Following up with John is a man who I met in Lamaze class. Oddly enough, he was there by himself. Thomas Rideout.
Hello. Glad to be here. What a week.
You are still monkeying with that thing.
What thing?
Well, you don't know. I will be monkeying with things all show long, so you might as well get used to it. All show long. Okay.
How are you guys doing this week?
Amazing. We have a fun story to share, but you said you had an interesting week, so you go first.
My week was similar to the last 2 weeks, where I've been battling with Laravel Horizon all week. And about an hour and a half ago, I got it all fixed and working, and it's doing the thing it's supposed to do.
And you figured this out all by yourself?
No.
No?
I did have to contact a friend of the show, Michael Drinda.
I only asked that because I pinged him on Telegram. I'm like, yo, man, like, what's up? Why didn't you turn my buddy's messages? No, I was actually making fun of you. I'm like, I think you broke Thomas's heart. And he's like, yeah, no, I just finished talking to him. We got it all worked out. So
yeah, he's very nice to put up with me describing at length all of the issues I've been having. And when it came down to it, it turns out that there's just a config issue with having two Horizon clients accessing the same Redis server, or two supervisors. I thought we only had the one supervisor running Horizon, but it turns out I was wrong.
So I to hear you actually say it though. I want to hear you say it wasn't an issue with Horizon.
Oh, it's very much an issue with Horizon.
It was not an issue with Horizon.
It's very much an issue with Horizon.
Oh.
Okay, so it was failing silently on thousands of jobs being executed, and there's a Horizon prefix variable for keeping your instances separate that essentially does nothing, as it turns out. So the issue is there are many issues, one of which I'm personally going to address, which is documentation. The Horizon documentation just doesn't explain anything, doesn't clarify what even certain tabs do or don't do. If you go to active or recent jobs, any recent job has a pause button on it. It just says paused with no sort of explanation as to what that means and when it goes green or red. And then, the configuration issue, such as having a configuration on your Horizon config that argues with your Redis configuration. So timeouts aren't compatible with each other. They have to be set in ways that don't conflict. And then the bigger issue is that the person currently maintaining Horizon is Taylor's intern. And he just sort of goes through tickets on GitHub and says, here are the correct support channels, and points everyone at LaraChat and IRC and Slack, and closes the ticket saying, this isn't a bug, you just don't know what you're doing.
That sounded a little bitter.
It's very bitter because that's the current status of all the tickets that are on GitHub, is you configured it wrong, ticket closed. Which to me is horseshit way of dealing with any issues. That's, I mean, why are you the maintainer then? If there's a valid issue that's being replicated by 5, 6, 7 people, closing the ticket and saying, talk about it over here is not the appropriate response.
Okay.
But what I'm confused is, did you get it resolved without changing code?
We got it resolved by changing configuration values that were not explained in any documentation or any configuration instructions.
So there was nothing wrong with the code. There's nothing wrong with Horizon.
The thing that's wrong with Horizon is that the claim that the Horizon prefix handles multiple instances on one server is not true. I got around that bug by switching Redis databases instead. So there's very clearly a bug related to how the prefix is handled, and it's a known bug in the GitHub issues tracker. And the fix for it is to ignore the prefix completely. It does nothing, and switch to different Redis databases. So I resolved the issue without changing code, but it's an issue of documentation and somebody actually resolving the actual bug that's occurring.
I heard from a few people after you posted the podcast, which in hindsight, I did want to mention. I think that's one of the shortcomings with your system of posting the podcast on Wednesday, because occasionally people respond and we could talk about it on Thursday. Fortunately, people responded to yesterday's podcast quick enough. But I heard from quite a few people of, well, why isn't Thomas fixing it? Why isn't he contributing to it? Why isn't he? I told him, I'm like, he's not that smart. He just doesn't know what he's doing. I supported you as much as I could, but yeah, I thought it was interesting.
I have started to. I found the areas where certain things are flagged, but the thing is that the problems that I kept running into as far as the clarity of what's going on in the system were not programmatic, they were architectural. And I can tell you now that if I added some new architectural fixes to Horizon, that PR would be thrown away instantly.
But, okay, I have a position on this. You say that a lot, and I'm fine getting your back on that. But it's hard for me to do that with you just saying that as speculation. Like, you need to submit and let that happen for me to really support that comment. You can't just say, "Oh yeah, if I did a PR, they would throw it out the window because that's what they do." It's like that's not the right attitude to have in open source. I don't mean
You're going to talk about attitudes in open source.
Well,
you're not just berating me. You're taunting me because I spoke quite at length about attitudes in open source earlier today, and how much I dislike some people's attitudes about the open source community, despite being senior developers of open source projects.
Okay,
but going back to this one specifically, where you're saying your PR would be thrown away, is it just because of the maintainers of the project?
No, it would
isn't it
because it's architectural. Because fundamentally the things that are causing me issues still are things that just don't make sense. Decisions that were made that don't make sense.
Right. So are you saying it's ego-driven throwing away PRs? Like you assume that's what they're thinking?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, see, I think you're wrong.
I think you're wrong.
And I think you're being unfair.
Well, I can submit a PR after a couple months worth of trying to figure out what's going on. My issue.
I just said you don't have to submit a PR, but don't knock the system if you're not going to participate in it. Don't say that they're not going to accept a PR if you're not going to submit a PR. That's all I'm saying. It's like if you don't want to submit a PR, don't submit a PR, but don't sit there and say you're not submitting a PR because you know it wouldn't be accepted, because that's not fair. It's not fair to them.
Again, I feel like you're taunting me because of this quote that I saw today.
Okay.
I feel like I'm being.
Are you
really suckered into?
I think I know what you're about to say. Does this include a certain database client?
It does. Statements that I have made and been absolutely dragged over the coals for, being made by somebody and having him cheered by the community.
Cheered. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you've put it out there. Let's discuss. This is going to be a down and dirty, ugly PHP.
It really is, and I want everyone to understand that this is just my opinion. This is not John or Eric's.
Let me stretch a little bit, because
these are not opinions of the PHP Ugly show.
I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. Myself.
Before you get into this, I saw the initial tweet. I didn't follow the thread. I didn't follow the discussion. So you may need to catch me up some, but let's have it. Go ahead. I'll see if I can find it. Do you have a link in Twilio by chance?
I'll throw it in the PHP. I really wasn't gonna put myself through this, so I hadn't saved links up or anything. But Taylor tweeted something that I found, offensive, like outright offensive as an open source developer.
Mm-hmm.
He's tweeted, been moving over to Table Plus from SQL Pro the last couple days. SQL Pro, prime example that you should charge money for well-done software if you want it to be sustainable. And I felt like that was a weird way to throw open source under the bus. And the first reply in Twitter is, open source software is always the best, not for pricing, but it has more way to improve and introduce features. This is general talk, but we should always support open source. I don't necessarily agree with that either, because open source has its issues. There's purposes for closed source. There's better software out there sometimes. But then Taylor's response was, SQL Pro is open source, and it feels like abandonware and crashes. Which I got yelled at for saying.
I see what you're saying there. I will support you on that. You did claims that you felt some Laravel packages felt like they were abandonware. And yes, you did.
And let's be clear here: SQL Pro is not abandonware. There's a nightly build that is constantly, every single night. It is a new version. There are commits every single day. And
the next person looks like it actually touches on that. I've been using the SQL Pro nightly build, and it has fixed the problem of the crashes related to closing tabs, dark mode 2. Nightly on a prod database sounds like a bad time.
Yeah, so does Horizon on a production database.
I kind of understand what Paul's saying. I don't necessarily agree with it. I mean, that comment could be made about any client, right? What makes a client, stable is subject to that developer. We had this discussion. I don't know if you remember this. Not to go down the path of SQL Pro specifically, but we had this discussion a few weeks back because John and I had ran into this exact same problem, and we had switched over to the night
because of Mojave.
Right. Because Mojave, we had switched over to the nightly builds. John was still having issues with the nightly builds, but our discussion point was more around the fact that there's clearly something like code is being submitted to a master branch, and yet they're not doing new releases. And
I mean, the release cycle for some reason, which is weird.
This has been the case for a long time. It's like they haven't released in like a year or maybe 2 years.
But if you're a SQL Pro and Taylor sends you word that, hey, here's some cash your way, can we see a way to get a new build out for this? I mean, what was the last bug fix of Horizon? Where they went from 2.02 to 2.03, and it was somebody deleted a carriage return. That was the whole version.
But why are you spending Taylor's cash? Why does he got to pay for it?
Because this is the thing about he's complaining about open source, and he says you have to ask for money in order for your code to be sustainable. But there's a donate button on SQL Pro, on the SQL Pro homepage, that he didn't hit instead.
That's a valid point.
So yeah, you want to donate money? Fucking knock yourself out, but donate it to the project that supports everyone, not the project that supports you. Like, you've got weight.
I feel like that's more of a personal attack, but I think that's a good point. I mean, I think you make a valid argument. There is a way to give money to this project. I still, I mean, I had said in the past that I'm probably one of the few people I know who actually donated to the charity that is the Vim developer asks people to donate to. So if you ever fire up Vim, that's all he asks is you to donate to this charity. And I think, I did it because I've been using Vim for 20 years. And I'm like, at some point, I have to show my appreciation for it.
But he's bashing open source, though. He's bashing open source, which I think is a shitty thing to do, especially if his whole community exists because of an open source project that he started. The reason he's making money on Envoy or what the server Forge, the reason he's making money on Forge is because Laravel was an open source success.
Mm-hmm.
And this to come out and say, well, it feels like abandonware because it crashes, but it has nightly pushes, nightly developers. When I said something was abandonware, it's because nobody was committing to it, nobody was maintaining it, and the issues list was going untracked. That was abandonware, and that's
valid. I'm going to support you on this, Thomas.
To say something with nightly builds is abandonware because it crashes, and to say that open source produces abandonware whereas closed source doesn't, I have Synergy connecting my machines together, and that shit's abandonware. There's 2 developers who own the Symfony license now, and they don't do shit.
Synergy, yeah.
Synergy license, yeah.
Yeah, I got your back on this, Thomas, because you are right. The first time you called out a Laravel project and you said it was abandonware, there was a lot of people that had negative things to say about that.
Yeah, none of them were maintainers.
Yeah, and for him to turn around and do this, and yeah, I understand. I understand that. But that's also the difference of people liking you, people not liking you.
Oh, I've accepted that a long time ago. I'm bummed out by the hypocrisy of it and the general attitude of, well, my software's good because it's mine. Yours is not mine, so I'm gonna go with this other guy. Like I don't like the whole tone of the conversation, and I don't like the ass kissing that went on in the thread following it, because there was a lot of ass kissing.
Was there? Like I said, I did not.
He's got the whole community behind him that just stands up for whatever he wants.
There's definitely a lot of people in the community that Taylor can do no wrong, right? I mean, no matter what Taylor says, he's kind of reached that pinnacle.
Dissenting voices on his Twitter account get blocked. He blocks people who tell him that he's wrong. So the community is only ass kissing now. He got into some giant fight with Code Rabbi, and so Code Rabbi just can't read Taylor's tweets and can't respond to him. And it's like, but that guy's a big deal. It's a curated list of followers who agree with him and defend him.
Well, but again, that's his. He has the right to do that, right? I mean, it's not like we don't see the tweets. He doesn't see them. He chose to block them. So, I don't know. Why is everybody frozen?
Is nobody saying anything?
Yeah, we're not. Why is Eric frozen?
Eric's frozen.
Oh no! So, yeah, that's. I really didn't mean to get into that whole thing. I disliked the way that thread went down, and seeing somebody else get high praise for a thing that I got a total shit show for was lame.
Well, considering the fact that OBS is changing, I'm assuming we are still being broadcast. So I'm going to go along with that.
Yeah. What have you been up to this week, John?
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about, but Eric's not here. So that's not fun. Trying to get back in the swing of things after getting back from my trip last week. Hence being gone for the last 2 Thursdays.
I heard, very important business trip, right?
Of course. Sorry, reading what Eric's typing. And needing to
new one to us. So word of mouth is
the way to go with advertising. It's a lot cheaper.
Hi guys!
He's calling back from his phone.
Hi guys! So I was thinking this would be a good opportunity to walk around the DiegoDev offices and show you what's. I gotta get myself. There I am. Guys, oh, let me just go. Yeah, we're on total.
What did you break?
All sorts of things, man. I don't know what's going on now. My life is just falling apart. My system completely froze up on me. I couldn't do anything. And yeah. So now I'm calling back on my phone and trying to get logged back in. But I didn't want to miss out on any of the fun, so
I assume your local recording is dead?
Can you do the show without?
Oh yeah, local recording is going to be dead. How are we going to do that? I guess you got to take it from the YouTube stream.
Yeah, you'll just have to grab it from the YouTube stream.
That's not going to work. The YouTube stream is a little shitty.
I don't tell you that's going to be your option.
If you start Audacity back up, does it restore the project?
I don't use Audacity, so.
Oh.
I use Audio Hijack. All right, let me get my system back on, and we'll carry on without me, and I'll join you back when I can. Boom, baby. I'm back.
Well, we paused. We didn't carry on. The scene you're on right now, that Crew 2 shot, they're saying there's feedback when it's like this. So is that mixer per scene?
Oh, there's a local mic on this one, which shouldn't be here.
Right.
Okay.
All right, Gishu, is that any better?
Check.
All right. So, wait a second. Oh yeah, the local mic is still got off. I'm not even sure why that local mic is there. It shouldn't be there. Where's that at? It's right here. Take that off. Boop. Remove it. There we go. Should be all good now.
Okay.
Yeah, that fixed it. Awesome.
Did your audio recording software back up what you were doing while it was doing it?
Well, yeah, it records while it's doing it, so it started recording again.
Okay, so we're theoretically back?
Yeah, we're theoretically back. I mean, you're going to have to do some...
That's Eric behind me.
All right, everyone be quiet. We're going to do a clap check. Okay. 3, 2, 1. That's a finger check. It's different.
I do the clap checks in this house, man.
You can do the editing then too on this one.
Oh, whatever. Jesus, baby. I lost my synergy too, so I need to get that going again. Speaking of synergy. Yep, that was a hard stop for me. It was not being nice at all.
I think it's fair to say it was a hard stop for all of us.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right, should we carry on?
Yes, John. So you're talking about your week. You needed Eric to be here for it.
We had the most surreal experience today. Eric, you ready to talk about this?
Not really, but if you want to talk about it, I was completely at all. I mean, I was giddy with emotion on it. But yeah, go ahead.
I was contacted a couple weeks ago by just a random person reaching out saying, "Hey, I've got a project. I would like, some feedback, maybe a little mentoring, maybe, we can hire you for some help if we get to that point. And if somebody could call me back, that'd be great. But let's be honest, it's not going to be John. Blah blah blah." He makes some sort of reference to PHP Ugly, so he listens to the show. And I'm like, this is kind of weird. Like that was
a bad start.
That was a weird way to get into it, but okay. So I contact him back, and we ended up setting up a meeting he wanted to come to our office, and we set up a meeting for today. He shows up, and we start talking, and I'm like, "So you live here in San Diego?" "Nope, he lives in Kansas." "Oh, what brings you out here?" "I wanted to meet you guys."
That really happened.
Really?
That really happened, dude.
He wanted to meet us and talk to us. Where he's at in Kansas is way out in the boondocks, and there's no community there for him to talk to, and he's got a side project that is going really well for him, and wanted to just talk about it. And he wants to make the leap from his current profession into being a professional developer.
And it's not going to be as far of a leap as he was thinking it was going to be. This guy definitely had some talent. He was showing us some stuff he was working on, and I'm like, yeah, man, you know what you're doing. I mean, I'm sure he's
we haven't seen code, but
right. I'm sure he's rough around the edges because, like he said, he hasn't. It sounded like he was self-taught. He hasn't gotten any real guidance. He is using a framework. Patreon?
Because if he's not a Patreon, this ad for him ends now.
Is that the right last letter there, John?
No.
That's not his last.
Oh no, I think that is, yeah.
I believe he is a Patreon.
All right, go on then.
we're gonna say yes, he is for now. But yeah. I mean, he showed us some stuff he was working on. He just was asking for some mentoring and if we'd be interested in doing some code reviews with them. I'm like, yeah, man. I mean, you didn't have to fly out here for this. But I ended up walking around the office and finding like everything I could like just give away. I just started giving him a couple of Rice Krispie treats,
I can totally understand that though. If I were out here in Colorado and did not have my family here to keep me a little bit sane, I'd be flying all over the country for stuff.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Yeah. Well,
so it was super cool.
It was, and I was telling my wife about it tonight, and immediately started feeling like a complete jerk because we didn't offer to hang out with him at all during the day. We told him, about some sites because he was going to go to El Centro, and we're like, oh, go check out Balboa Park or Torrey Pines or these other places. We didn't offer to take him out to lunch
or hang out for dinner or have a beer or something.
I feel you guys are monsters.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I'm saying. So Ken, I'm sorry.
Now, to our defense, Ken, or at least to my defense, I don't know what John's excuse is, but we had like 3 meetings today. I'm going to go 3 meetings. We recorded the PHP Architect podcast, LaraChat podcast. I edited the PHP Architect podcast, got it to PHP Architect, and we're also doing PHP Ugly. So kind of had a full day, but I agree. John should have taken you to dinner.
Yeah, we can all agree that John really dropped the ball on this one.
Yeah, and I didn't even ask him like how long you in town for. Like, was he jumping right back on a plane heading home?
I couldn't get out of the mindset that he wasn't local. I'm like, it just didn't register.
Yeah. So
Frontal Nougaty says that the podcast fame has changed you, man.
I know.
Yeah, does anybody else want to come visit us for, spend whatever money on a plane ticket, all the hours on the plane, come out and spend like 10 minutes?
Isn't that what Wave PHP is? It's just the unofficial conference for PHP Ugly.
Come on and see PHP Ugly. Yeah. Oh man, that was fun. I mean, Ken, if you're listening to the show, you're still in town, and you're going to be in town for a while. Ping us and let us know. I guess I could email you. I still have your email. But yeah, I was thinking about it.
Didn't get your email either. Didn't get your full name. Didn't get your phone number.
Yeah, that was great though. That was great. Yeah, I just it was funny. I mean, it's funny. It's a funny thing.
So what do you guys have more stuff for this week? Because I have literally like 100 tickets that are all.
I didn't even know what ones to queue up on you, man. You have so many tickets in here now.
It's a mess.
Yeah. All right. We're not just now. Listen. Before you dive into this, okay? This isn't just a news show. You can do a couple of articles, and you can do 3, and one of them has to be your doom and gloom. But we're supposed to be talking about development stuff, man. Not just a bunch of.
There's a lot of development stuff in here. Last week, you and I talked about getting into the internals newsletter, the feed from PHP internals.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a deep dive on that this week, and oh boy, it's crazy. the first thing I can say about internals is it is a nightmarishly hostile environment. I would never want to be involved in that group.
It's intimidating.
It's not just intimidating, it's brutal. I mean,
really? Yeah, I've heard that, but I've never really started reading into it.
It's a lot of opinion spoken as fact. And once the conversation...
Wait, are you talking about PHP Ugly, or are you talking about internals?
Internals.
Okay, just making sure.
No, I understand. There's a distinct line, though, between what we do and what the internals people do. But when the conversation ping-pongs a couple times and several opposing facts have been presented, the conversation starts to break down real fast. But the biggest conversation for this week has been PHP 8. Last week we talked about how they were going to fork 7.4 off into the 8 branch. That has now been officially done. So PHP 8 is now an official branch off of PHP. There is a very cool list of how RFCs roll backwards, like roll downhill. So you submit it to 7.4 and it rolls uphill into 8. Or if you submit it for 8, it rolls downhill into 7.4, depending on what it's doing. And there's a lot of very interesting conversations about what should 8 represent, how much change should really be there. The big one for me is the JIT compiler. they're talking about actually finally implementing JIT into PHP. Now, it's sort of a given that it's going to be in 8, but one of the questions that's up for discussion is, will it be introduced into 7.4 as an optional experimental feature? But today, a lot of the conversation revolved around the fact that Windows might not get JIT. This might just be a Unix, Linux OS based function. A few people sort of threw their arms up and said that's preposterous, but then eventually relented and say, well, no, of course I'm not running a Windows server running PHP on production. And the end result from today's conversation, it looks like JIT just probably isn't going to make it to Windows. That might sound crazy because we like to think that everything in PHP is the same across all the systems, but I actually ran into a situation this week with PNCTL being a Unix only thing as well.
Well, that makes sense though, with what it's doing.
It totally makes sense with what it's doing and with how difficult a separate branch of the entire code base would be for Windows, that managing that for the 2 people who run Windows servers is not worth it. So it's interesting to see that sort of fracturing occurring in real time. The other thing that was noted was that this isn't really for existing implementations of PHP. If you're running a Mandelbrot fractal rendering set, then yeah, you get triple the speed running JIT. But if you're running WordPress, you get no improvement. And that sounds like, well, why even bother? But what it's actually doing is it's bringing PHP into the next generation of the programming languages, where you can start to use PHP for things that you couldn't before because JIT exists now. So that's the status of the just-in-time compiler for PHP. The other one I wanted to bring up was this constant function names.
Consistent?
One of the oldest. This is an RFC to fix one of the oldest complaints, which is inconsistency in the naming conventions for functions built into PHP. And I did not realize how big the list is. Eric, on screen there, if you could scroll down that list just to show how many functions would be affected by a standardization.
What list are you talking about?
If you open up in the ticket, I don't know what you're looking at now.
I clicked on your link.
Okay, there you go. On that RFC, if you scroll down.
That's what I just did, yes?
Oh, I wasn't seeing what you were seeing for some reason. Well, it's all the functions. Oh,
here they are. Functions other than standard module.
So the list goes on for about 100 pages. And the big discussion in internals is, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to break all of the old functionality? Or do you want to have aliases for everything that's old and keep the old functionality there? Or do you want to implement some new object-based system that replaces the old system but leaves the old system in place? And it's been an interesting conversation because there are people who are so stuck on this idea that developers can't change and that an 8.0 version has to be, for the most part, backward compatible, except that their reference for that being true was, if you have to look at Perl 3 was a new version of Perl. It wasn't the same Perl. whereas PHP 8 is the same PHP. It's just a new major revision. And the argument was like, basically you have to print up a really big banner if you want to do this, and make sure everyone sees the banner that says PHP 8 isn't PHP 7, because people won't change.
But where I was confused, I saw in the RFC that they wouldn't deprecate the old functions. Wouldn't that be the right step if the goal is to eventually remove them?
Yes. So that was the question: is the goal to eventually remove them? And many people said no. Many people said even though they're wrong, keep them forever. Don't ever deprecate them.
I could see. I mean, the list is so friggin' long. You're basically changing every piece of code in your code base. So it would be a nightmare to handle.
I could write a script that just did a grep and replace for every single instance. I mean, it's not a dynamic list. It's a static list.
True.
If you just replaced it everywhere in your code base, there's a nearly 0% chance of something breaking. You know, I mean, a basic string match and replace could upgrade your project. And to say that, well, coders can't do that is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, if only there were built-in Linux functions that did that already. Wait.
Or IDEs. or helpful people who are willing to help you.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. That's the PHP stuff. Just that the fact that internals is crazy. It's so hyperactive and so tribal in its behavior.
If you're interested in following internals, by the way, I was spending some time trying to find this link. You don't actually have to subscribe to the mailing list anymore. There's externals.io, which is the internals discussions going on. And what's kind of cool about it is it's like the old dig system or like Reddit where people actually will come in here and vote on discussions. But it's kind of a cool way to look at it without cluttering your inbox if you don't want to do that.
Now one of the RFCs is for how RFCs are approved. And if you want to see people freaking out, asking them to give away their power and change how the majority vote is decided is a really fun topic to track. Because people are losing their minds. It is literally politics of code. It is the worst possible case scenario to have a sane conversation. You guys got stuff? I see you do. I see Eric does.
No, I put something out there, but we don't need to talk about it.
Do you guys use Netflix a lot?
I have found myself using Netflix a lot lately. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you guys use Amazon Video at all? Prime Video?
Yes.
Not so much.
I am blown away by the difference.
What do you mean?
So the Amazon Prime Video, if you pause the show you're watching, you get this thing called X-ray, which shows you the name and then IMDb information for everyone who's visible on screen.
Yeah.
Or if you're browsing Amazon Video, you get actual ratings from actual viewers, like 4 out of 5 stars.
Okay.
And I'm thinking back to what Netflix used to look like 4 years ago, and it looked very similar. Where it had real ratings from people, and you could give a star-based rating instead of just a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Mm-hmm.
And Netflix has been actively removing features from their system because they are the dominant system on the market. Like
okay.
they want people to watch, not to criticize. The whole idea of what is suggested for me is off the reservation ridiculous. I watched.
So here's my problem with Netflix currently is the fact that it only promotes Netflix originals. Like there are no movies on there anymore. There's my whole screen is Netflix original. That's all they're peddling to me now.
But that's where they're gonna make their money.
I don't know if Amazon's the same way or not, but yeah.
Well, my biggest issue is that I watched a horror movie that was so bad that within the first 10 minutes I shut it off. I could not continue watching it. It was so unbelievably bad. The intro credits were still rolling when I gave up on this piece of crap. And immediately I had a new section in Netflix called Because You Liked. Because you liked this movie. And I'm like,
sure it wasn't because you watched.
No. It said because you liked. Or no, you're right. It might have said because you watched. But still, I clearly didn't watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And would never want to see anything by that director again. And that's the thing. Their algorithm used to know who the directors were, and if you liked a movie, it would suggest movies by that director.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's based off of something that I don't believe actually involves any user input. It's just what they want you to watch next.
Let me see here. If I pull up my Netflix, I'm just curious now because I feel like I'm on Firefox. Where the hell's the sign in for this thing?
Up top right.
Right? Oh, okay.
Oh, this is a risky venture. You're putting that one out on the YouTube stream?
No, not yet. It's not out there yet. Okay, let me log in. All right, now it will be though.
About how YouTube is essentially doing the same thing, is that they're removing features for the sake of creating a more streamlined, continuous viewing, non-stop experience.
Mm.
And it's not...
Get you off the screen here.
It's not pro-consumer at all.
Netflix original, Netflix original, Netflix original, popular on Netflix. So this is all the stuff that's popular on Netflix. The first 1, 2, 3, 4 are all Netflix originals. Then it goes to The Office, and then I don't know what it goes to. Let's scroll a little bit though. See what happens. Can I scroll? Oh, I'm not.
They're mostly bad.
Bad Education.
Like, let's not forget that.
So here we go. Trending now. Netflix original. That's FX. Netflix original. Shameless. Netflix original. Continue watching. Netflix original. Netflix original. That's all stuff I'm watching. Yeah.
You must have started those.
The Netflix originals, comedies. Watch it again. Doc.
And see, your list looks identical to mine.
Okay, because you watched Parks and Rec. Okay, no Netflix originals. Oh, there's one way over here.
I can guarantee that you and I have very, very, very different opinions on TV and movies, and my Netflix homepage looks identical to yours.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing is just how much they've been peddling the Netflix. They make it so difficult now to find actual movies on Netflix because they're so busy peddling all the Netflix stuff.
Well, and you know the countdown timer between one episode and the next?
Mm-hmm.
If you're watching a Netflix original series, that countdown timer is 4 seconds. If you're watching a non-Netflix TV series, that countdown timer is 15 seconds.
Mm.
I mean, they're clearly pushing their stuff. I'm bothered by these companies that make it big and then massively dial back the feature set so that they can stay the biggest and provide the least. The YouTube is removing annotations, which is like, why? People used those.
Mm-hmm.
That was
the searching has always been a pain, and that little menu. I feel like they do that probably for all the streaming devices out there versus on a computer. But you think they'd be able to make the way you find stuff a lot easier.
not just that, but maybe an API that people could design their own interfaces for it.
No, you're just being silly.
Does Netflix not have an API? I'm pretty sure they do.
No, I mean they have an API, but it doesn't have access to the video content. Now, Kodi, which is the big piracy multimedia home platform, when you get those little pirate boxes, those are Kodi devices. They just released their most recent version, which is version 18, which includes a very controversial support for DRM'd video streams. They claim that they're working with multiple providers to bring content from outside of the app into the Kodi ecosystem. Apparently, this is a response to all the accusations that it promotes piracy, which it doesn't promote piracy. It just makes it more fun.
You and your piracy.
I have plenty of piracy stories that aren't on the list today.
All right, are we wrapping up? Are we done?
Well, we've got the big stuff that happened this week.
What's that?
Well, there's the Apple FaceTime bug. There's Facebook losing its root certificate, Google losing their root certificate, and everyone in a complete panic because they can't get their lunch menus on their iPhones from the Facebook offices anymore. So,
I mean, what about the certificate ones?
What is this?
iPhones have a developer certificate which allows for distribution of applications outside of the App Store. So it's basically an at their will route to the system. This is designed for enterprise applications where you have some app that you want to use internally and distribute, or if you want to beta test applications, you can load them up. And when you load them up in this way, it's called side loading. For Android, you can just open an APK file and it'll say, do you trust this? And you can say yes. For iPhone, they don't allow that. You have to have a developer certificate on the device. A news story broke out this week that Facebook was getting teenagers to sideload a VPN onto their phones, which tracked all of their web browsing behavior and sent it back to Facebook. And then they were paying these teenagers $20 or so a month to use this, even to the point where they were asking users to take screenshots of their Amazon purchases and send them to Facebook for market research. But they were doing this using their developer certificate that they have from Apple. So Apple responded by just yanking the whole certificate.
This was for Facebook. This wasn't some small shop somewhere.
Right. This is Facebook's developer certificate for iPhones. Mm-hmm. It's a real. So what happened is the next day, all of the people at Facebook who were using iPhones tried to hail a shuttle bus on the Facebook bus calling app, and it just wouldn't launch. It turns out that all of the internal systems that Facebook had developed for managing their staff on their campus got yanked with the certificate. The cafeteria had its menu published through an internal Facebook app. So now everyone is standing at the cafeteria and has no idea what's on the menu. And then the late-breaking part of this article is that they did it to Google today too.
For kind of the same reason.
For kind of the same reason, which was, we told you guys this is for enterprise employees and beta testing. You guys are using it like it's a feature set. It is not. Everyone's up in arms. A lot of people are applauding Apple. But then, at the same time, it turns out there's a bug in FaceTime that allows you to listen to the other person's end of the call before they pick up. My favorite part about this, because it's a pretty normal bug as far as like introducing a massive new feature, which was group calling. The problem is that it was so easy to do that in the explanation of what the bug is on news stories, they just told you how to do it.
Yep.
So I watched NBC, CNN, Fox, Stephen Colbert, all of them describe how to execute the exploit in about 30 seconds, which I really wish they understood the gravity of what they were doing, because you're not supposed to do that. And because of them doing that, Apple found themselves at the end of a lawsuit where an attorney had this done to him while he was in a confidential meeting with a client. So he is suing Apple because they allowed a third party to eavesdrop on privileged conversation. That might actually be a really big problem for Apple. I mean, probably not. They're a company, and thus they're a person, but not a person that can go to jail. But still.
That's going to lead to, if that lawsuit is successful, or people think it's going to be, it's going to lead to tons of stories like that. How do you prove that it didn't happen?
I don't know.
I
actually have no idea.
I was in a meeting today, and it happened to me. People were listening in on my conversation. I lost the biggest client I could have ever had. Billions of dollars in revenue.
Sounds like you have a case on your hands.
Yeah. I didn't think I did until we had this conversation, so I should look into it.
Sounds like I deserve a portion of your winnings from this case.
Mm-hmm. No, not really. I don't see how you see that.
I think you were the one listening, Thomas. Dun, dun, dun. Did I tell you what happened last week?
I owe myself money.
Last week, Thomas and I recorded this very podcast. Not this very podcast, but a podcast.
But whatever.
Podcast very similar to this, and I left my Audacity recording running all night, all the next day. It wasn't until I realized, oh shoot, I have to put my my stream for Thomas to edit. I went to get it. I'm like, why is it 3 gig? And it's like it's still running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw you talking about that.
We have a new office pet, a new office mascot. It's a fly.
It's still there.
He's still here. He's still flying around. He's still bugging me.
I know it's a he.
I checked. It was.
It's actually kind of embarrassing. It put Eric to shame.
I don't know. All right, I think that's it. It's late, and this. Did you see him? He came right at me. That was. I'm filing a complaint. We need it. We need to establish an HR department so I can file a complaint. I felt threatened. Okay, so that's it.
You can bug him all day.
Dude. Yeah, that's it. All right.
Can I pull one? What? Just one food for thought, doom and gloom. Walgreens has implemented smart coolers that use facial recognition to identify people's age groups and which sodas they prefer in order to focus their marketing on the things that youth actually like. So next time you're reaching into a refrigerator to pull out a nice cold soda from Walgreens, remember that they're taking your picture and putting it in a database.
Is that your doom and gloom?
Yeah.
Sorry about that because I won't drink it.
I burned hot today.
Hey, how are you? Are you keeping warm there? How cold is it there?
Oh, it's not bad. It's not. I'm not part of the whole polar vortex thing.
You're not?
So it's actually
okay,
no, it's quite nice.
Cool.
I switched up my morning energy drink, and it's been bizarrely different.
You have. I mean, with the exception of coffee, you have a morning energy drink.
Well, I don't do coffee. I don't like coffee, so I had Mio Energy for a while, a little additive stuff, but I got G Fuel.
G Fuel, huh? Let me pull that up. All right.
This episode brought to you by G Fuel.
I would love it to
for
be.
all your fueling needs.
I was really surprised by how effective it was.
What's it do for you?
I focus. Like, the really honest to God, that's the only word I can think of, is it's increased my focus. Not my energy level, because it's the same as the previous stuff I had. But man, I've been like super engaged in Lara Chat Slack and all over the place, and I've been doing more.
It sounds like less focus if you're all over the place.
Well, no, I'm able to engage instead of just stare. I was very impressed with it. So if they feel like sponsoring us, I'm down for it. But yeah, I just wanted to put it out there.
I'll talk to him tomorrow in my normal
intriguing.
meeting.
I guess that's it. If you don't want to let me just keep tackling tickets.
Nope.
That's not what we do, man.
And we got a late start.
We got a late start, and we had a big pause. So
that wasn't my fault.
Nope. But you're a victim of it. It's a cruel world. Okay, this has been episode, what did I say, 139?
139.
139 is in the can.
Again?
I am Eric Van Johnson.
I'm John Congdon.
I'm Tom Rideout.
Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly. We're supposed to do like a hand signal or something.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
All right, keep it ugly.
Why is it not
okay, I'm stopping my local recording.
Yeah, you got to make sure to do that.
That was horrible.
What are you talking about? Those
horrible.
That was as great an episode as any.
Negative.
Why?
That was not a great episode. But the fact that I lost, again, my system completely froze up on me. So 100%.
Yeah, that sucks.
It does. All right, so I'm gonna drop two audio streams for you. But honestly, you might just want to grab them from. You might want to just. Oh shit! It didn't do the other one. Yeah,
so
we're gonna have
to use the YouTube audio.
Yep. It did not save the first one. So you're 100% gonna have to.
Is there a backups? Check if there's a backups directory where it records to while it's. It has to have put the file somewhere. Because it doesn't just write it straight to memory. It has to write it to disk.
Yeah, I know.
Boy, I didn't get to any of my crazy doom and gloom.
You got the plenty of doom and gloom.
There's so much. The safe face pledge.
Is that what you want the show to be? We still have Discord on. Discord, let me ask. I'm just curious. Do you guys want this to be us reading news articles? Because I feel like we get into that groove too often. It's like half the time the things we're reading, like the iPhone stuff that happened. Everybody who listens to the show knows about the iPhone bug. So why are we talking about it? I mean, unless we have something to contribute to it, I'm fine with that. But I mean, this was meant for us to talk about the stuff we're working on, talk about projects, things like that. I don't want to read a bunch of news articles.
I feel like you're not asking Discord. You're just telling me.
My case.
There's a delay, so
yeah.
He's vamping until they can respond.
And I'm asking you, Thomas. I mean, is that what you want us to do? Is your idea just to sit here and read news articles?
No, I was actually going to announce that I'm going to do Doom and Gloom as a Patreon blog every week.
You are going to do that?
I am going to do that. I forgot to bring it up. I should have made a ticket for that.
You're killing me, Smalls. I enjoy the doom and gloom. Okay, definitely interested in more discussions around Laravel and PHP. Okay. Yeah, we're not talking about doing away with doom and gloom. I mean, to be clear, as much as I would like to. Yeah, that definitely seems to be Thomas's niche.
Well, I think I flooded myself with it this week, too.
A little bit of everything. Definitely don't want to hear Fox News on YouTube, but splashes of news here and there. Nice. I agree with you. Get you on that. As a Brit, anything that reminds me of the world just as shit as what's going on in the own country, I'm fine with. Challenges of dev encounter. You know, we did say we were going to do that. Start to talk more about running some of the challenges we have running our business, and we really kind of shy away from that.
I feel like we talk about that kind of stuff, don't we? I don't feel like we shy away from it.
And honestly, I mean, we've got such a great team. It's kind of embarrassing of how well things run most of the time.
An embarrassment of riches. I don't want to brag, but I got nothing to complain about.
And I mean, John and I's biggest debate is whether or not we wanted to increase our internet speed. It's like really.
He does make the decisions.
He pays the bills. There's no question about that.
No, but I definitely do that back in Eric's court. Like, do we need faster internet? Because they
always.
Well, the prices are so freaking outlandish.
Don't pay for business. Pay for residential.
You don't have a choice. They won't come install a residential.
Yeah. And they didn't have the speeds that they're offering now when we first moved in just 2 months ago. Now all of a sudden they have 500 meg and a gig download speeds available.
See, I had two topics here that were just sort of conversational topics that I didn't really bring up. But one of them was the Diaspora project. It was that Facebook alternative thing. Mm-hmm. Where I had decided I was going to sign up for it, and then I went to their page and then decided not to sign up for it because they're dumb. Because I went to sign up for it, and they're like, yeah, it's simple. Just choose your pod. And I'm like, what?
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. Now, pods can talk to other pods. You're not stuck in your pod, but you have to have a main pod.
Right, and they basically tell you, yeah, this system's just for nerds who will never use it. Like, there's the first option is choose a pod, and then it links you to a wiki page that says how to choose.
Why are we having this conversation now? Why are we having this conversation for next week?
Because I get wrapped. We'll have it next week. But then I also had like a conversation that I had with my teenagers because every week is just another bizarre new conversation with my teenagers. They all want to work now, and I had to explain to them that if me or their mother took them to work, and picked them up, then that would take 6 hours out of our day every day, and that would be a full-time job for us just to drop them off at their part-time job. And they could not fathom that.
Holy cow, John! You haven't been on the show for a while.
Yeah.
Have you been listening to the show?
No. I actually meant to listen before this one and then forgot.
That's good to know.
I have a new son.
Thomas has a new family member. It's a boy. He's 26, not pounds, 26 years old.
6 years old. I completely forgot about that. John looks like a confused dog.
This is the shit we need to talk about on the show.
All right, I gotta go listen to the past 2 episodes now and see what the hell you're talking about.
You know how embarrassing it is that you don't listen to your own podcasts, and we have other people that listen.
I'm normally on the podcast. I'm normally here. I don't have to go listen to it.
You're 50-50 on the podcast.
No.
For the year.
I'm like 55-45.
You're 50-50 for the year.
So I got a funny story for you, Thomas. And John, you're gonna appreciate this. In Discord, you're more than welcome to listen in as well if you're still here.
Discord, mute your headphones.
You know how you love your wife. You guys can connect and groove and chill and everything, but there's always that like one topic that for whatever reason you can't see eye to eye on. We have that situation in our house, and it centers around the toilet in the master bedroom. So I hate the toilet in the master bedroom. It doesn't function. It's like it won't flush anything. You always have to.
I didn't expect.
You always have to take a plunger to it and plunge it in order to flush, no matter what's in there. I mean, if it's just liquid, same thing. It doesn't fill. I mean, it just doesn't function correctly as a toilet. And it drives me crazy. And this has been this way for a long time. What?
I'm having another conversation without you. Keep talking.
Okay. This has been this way for a long time. So I finally got sick of it this week. And I went and bought a new toilet, arranged to have it installed, and have been waiting for the day my wife has to. So my wife works a couple jobs, and one job she actually goes into the hospital. So I've been waiting for her to have to go back to the hospital to have them come out and install the toilet. So finally,
why wouldn't you install your own toilet?
I'm not going to install a toilet. First thing, it's something I definitely don't.
It's a 2-minute job.
I know it's not hard, but it's me, and I'll mess up a seal or something will break, and I will fuck it up. And then my wife will be like, this is why I didn't want to get a new toilet. So all that aside, okay, don't even give me a hard time about that, because I'm going to pay somebody to get it installed. So I've been waiting for my wife to have to go to work. I finally schedule them. I'm like, she goes to work on Friday. So you guys come in on Friday and we're going to install it. And I told John, I'm like, I'm just going to have to deal. First line of defense, I'm totally going to deny it's a new toilet. I'm just going to be like, what are you talking about? That's the same. How much attention do you pay to our toilet? That's the same toilet. But as I'm coming here for the podcast tonight, my wife says, I said, are you going to bed? You gotta work in the morning. And she's like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get the day off. I've told him I want the day off. And I'm like, fuck.
He's speaking into his sleeve. Cancel. Project's dead in the water.
Mission flush is flushed. Mission flush is flushed.
See, you need to work better on your terrible excuses. Just say, it's really embarrassing, but my balls touch the water.
No, she's seen him. She knows that's not true. Yeah. I got another funny for you. You want to hear something else funny, Thomas?
Sure.
So we're having meetings today, and we had this person come into the office. We talked about him earlier, and I forgot to put up Patreon. Holy shit, I didn't put up Patreon before as we signed off. You guys have to remind me of that shit.
Right.
So, anyways, John wears his nice DiegoDev polo shirt, which is typically what we wear when people are coming to our office or we're going to an office. But I had forgotten to grab my polo shirt. I had just grabbed a DiegoDev T-shirt, and I I come to the office and I'm walking around the office and like, man, something's really...
Wait. He dropped his car off.
Oh, we're still live.
Yeah,
no,
that's right. Okay, yeah.
He dropped the car off, and his wife dropped him off at the office, so he has no way to leave at this point.
Yeah. The wife drops me off at the office.
So not only can you not get the toilet installed, but you're stuck at the office while they're trying to knock on the door.
No. We moved on to another story. This is today. So I'm walking around the office. I'm like, man, I feel like I forgot something this morning. And then I realized I forgot to get dressed. I'm still walking around in my T-shirt. And I didn't have a DiegoDev shirt on. And I'm like, holy shit, where's my shit? And of course, stupid me, I'm sitting there, I'm like, what do I do with my
shirt? So you told someone to go home and give you their shirt?
No, I still don't have it. Look, I haven't
threw the hoodie on.
Yeah, been rocking the hoodie all day long. So, see. All right.
And we treated our special guest like trash. Still embarrassed.
Yeah.
By that.
All right, Discord. What we did was wait. Did he say I'm normally on the podcast? Yeah, you are. Keisha, you're always on the podcast.
No.
He's talking about John being normally on the podcast.
Oh no, you're more on the podcast than John is, Keisha. You know that.
I was talking back to him while you were talking. It was subliminal.
This is also, I got this for my G Fuel.
Okay.
Bagels. Oh, never mind. Fine.
I don't get it.
Was that supposed to be funny?
Yeah.
Was there something there?
It was bagels instead of bagels.
Yes.
It was BAE.
Still not funny.
All right. Thank you, Discord, for listening.
Thank you. We're turning off the stream now. We do appreciate you listening.
Absolutely. And I will let you guys know what's going on with the Patreon weekly blog post of Doom and Gloom. I'll try to get it out there so that I don't bring it to the table here.
So wait, do we pronounce this fugly? I just realized PHP ugly, fugly.
Yeah.
That works. Seems right. All right. I'm killing the stream.